Good afternoon and welcome to St James's Park on a crisp January afternoon for the first game here in 2026 as Newcastle welcome Crystal Palace. Just a point separate these two teams who have both enjoyed success in 2025 with historic Wembley finals sharing the two major cups between them. Newcastle ended the year with a 3-1 win at Burnley, and Eddie Howe has admitted this first month of the year is season defining with a whopping 9 games, including today, across 4 different competitions. A less exhausting month for Oliver Glasner, who picked up a point at home to Fulham to start the year, but is looking forward to a less congested fixture list, as he calls this part of the season almost like a second pre-season. Alongside me for this one today, former Newcastle goalkeeper Rob Elliott. Rob, a brilliant atmosphere as ever at St James's Park to start the year, but what a huge month this is for Newcastle.
Yeah, it is. It's obviously St James's is rocking as it always is at the start of the game, and like you said there, 9 games in over 4 competitions is and I think Eddie Howe, like you said, mentioned, isn't it, how sort of season defining it is for this month, not only on the pitch but I'd imagine off it as well.
A lot of expectation comes from these Newcastle fans, and I suppose that is what you get when you have success, winning a trophy, Champions League football, top 6 finishes. Is there an expectation that is perhaps too high on this Newcastle team right now, or is it an expectation that they deserve to go out and to try and emulate what they've done previously under Eddie Howe?
I think it's both, isn't it? You know, fans will never be satisfied, because that's what you want. You always want your club to be bigger and better, and I think that's what this Newcastle, well, this new look Newcastle the last 3 years is. It's trying to get better every week, and in the short term I think they won't be happy with what's happened the last month or two. I think they'd have wanted better, but in the long term they I think winning a cup, being in all these competitions, the Champions League consistently, the club is in a much better place. And I think for me, we've got the right man in charge, there's a good core of players, and I think it's just a case of kicking on and improving the squad each year, and trying to push for every single competition to get as close as you can to winning them every time. But that's a lot easier said than done.
But the teams have made their way out onto the pitch here at St James's Park. They're just going through the handshakes. Newcastle in their home kit, but with the white jackets, warm-up jackets on at the moment, and Crystal Palace also in their home kit, but with a navy blue and white baseball style jacket on as they go through the handshakes. To our right hand side, a big white, black and gold motif that spells out United. Here at Newcastle, St James's Park, always such a welcoming atmosphere. And for Crystal Palace, it's been a really difficult spell for Oliver Glasner. A huge number of injuries to contend with as well, and they come into this one with no wins in their last 4 in the Premier League. And he's spoken about the problems he's got, obviously, in terms of trying to put a team out. But one player who he has been able to include today is Brennan Johnson, a club record signing, who has made the move from Tottenham. We can see him just running out and applauding the Crystal Palace away fans way high up to our left hand side. A good signing for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, fantastic signing. I think when we saw sort of what he was doing at Forest, obviously before the move to Spurs, which obviously hasn't worked out, and I think this Palace squad and the signings that they have made, they've sort of took players that, you know, maybe have been underperforming, although that's probably harsh on Johnson, and they've sort of really got the best out of them. So I think it's a fantastic addition, and yes, I know they've been struck by injuries and the bench isn't maybe as strong as they'd like. However, this starting 11 is a very, very strong Crystal Palace starting 11, and I think they're going to be it's going to be a good game. And I think they're a team that, you know, winning the FA Cup and a fantastic manager, they're a team that can be dangerous whether it's with or without the ball. So it's going to be a good game.
Well, let me run you through the two teams as the captains go over to just do the pre-match routine. So for Newcastle, Nick Pope continues in goal. It is a back 4 of Lewis Hall, Fabian Schär, who makes his 250th appearance for Newcastle today, Malik Chow, and Lewis Miley continues at right back, deputising in what has been an injury-hit back line for Eddie Howe. In midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, the captain, and Sandro Tonali, with Joe Linton just in front of them. Anthony Gordon wide left. Jacob Murphy comes in the wide right position, replacing Harvey Barnes, and the only change for Newcastle, which means that leading the line once again is Yohan Wissa, making his 2nd Premier League start for the club. Crystal Palace, Dean Henderson in goal, a back 3 of Mark Gahey, Maxence Lacroix, Jefferson Lerma, out wide on the left, Tyrick Mitchell, Will Hughes starts in midfield despite struggling with a slight hamstring injury. Adam Wharton alongside him, and Nathaniel Klein once again starts wide on that right hand side. The one change for Crystal Palace is the debut for Brennan Johnson. He replaces Devaney in one of those number 10 positions, with Yeremy Pino alongside him, and up front Jean-Philippe Mateta, who got back on the score sheet against Fulham. So we are underway at St James's Park. Newcastle in their black and white stripes playing from our right to left. Crystal Palace in the red and blue stripes, blue shorts and blue socks, playing from our left to right. And Jefferson Lerma with the throw-in right on the halfway line. And there were a few decisions for Eddie Howe to make, and one of them certainly in that striker role, and it's Johan Wissa that is preferred to Nick Voltemada. Why do you think he has gone once again with Wissa?
I think he needs to play games, to get his sharpness up. He scored obviously in his last start, and the problem we've got at the moment, I suppose, from a Newcastle perspective, is that you can't start both of them because you can't replace either of them during the game. So I think obviously Eddie Howe's looking at it that he can at least bring Voltemada on to affect it, and I know that there's a real desire from Newcastle fans to see them play together, but I think with the state of the squad at the moment, he's probably erred on the side of having the option of both rather than no option of either if anything was to go wrong. But in terms of the team, I think he's gone back to what's been really successful. Murphy on the right, Gordon on the left, and the three in midfield with Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno, who have probably helped Newcastle with the reset in terms of getting going again, because that's probably his most trusted, experienced midfield that he can go for.
Well, one big positive for Eddie Howe is the return to the bench of three of his injured defenders in Botman, Trippier and Livramento, so all of them available for some match action today. But he has continued with Lewis Miley in that right back place. He has been excellent there, the 19-year-old, in the games that he has started, and it is Newcastle on the ball. Guimaraes just sending it back to goalkeeper Nick Pope. Scher on this left hand side, and Lewis Hall under pressure from Klein gets it back to his goalkeeper. In terms of Crystal Palace, well, Rob, you mentioned their bench is perhaps not as strong as they would like, and they do have just one outfield player over the age of 22. As the ball is played forward to Anthony Gordon, he's up against Gay, he goes inside to Wissa. First opportunity for Newcastle, a first shot from Wissa straight into the arms of Dean Henderson, but that was Newcastle and Anthony Gordon at their best.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. That's what we talked about in terms of the selection he's gone for, the pace and power of Wissa and Murphy and Gordon there, and it makes Newcastle such a formidable team in the fact that in turnovers, if there's space in front of them, they can really hurt you. And I think probably Wissa will be slightly disappointed he's not made the keeper work better there. It's comfortable for Henderson from that angle.
He was picked out perfectly by Anthony Gordon down that left hand side. He just cut it back to Wissa, central inside that penalty box, but a shot straight at Henderson. But a first opportunity for Wissa and a first opportunity for Newcastle, and that is a part of the pitch that I think Newcastle fans have been a little bit frustrated. I'm sure Eddie Howe has also been a little bit frustrated with that final third, just trying to get those moments to really click in front of goal. And it must have been difficult losing Isak so late in the window, but it is an area that's perhaps not been where Eddie Howe wants it to be this season.
No, definitely, you're spot on. You look at the Man United game. I mean, Newcastle going to Old Trafford, dominating the game in every area, but ultimately not being able to make all that possession and the opportunities around the box count. So, with Wissa being in the team, be getting fitter, and with Voltemada, you'd like to think that those opportunities will be converted going forward. And yeah, I think Palace have struggled with it themselves with the injuries, because we know how brilliant they've been the last year, and Newcastle the same. When your best players aren't on the pitch, it tends to fall down.
A little groan from the Newcastle crowd there. They thought they'd won the throw-in inside their own half, but it is a Crystal Palace throw-in, which Jefferson Lerma goes across to take, just on in front of us here on this right-hand touchline. And Lerma just swapping the ball over, perhaps wanting a dry one, because it looks like he's going for the long throw. He is just level with the edge of Newcastle's penalty area, and every Palace player is in there looking for the throw, which does go in long, but it's won by Chow. Straight up in there, Scher gets ahead on it, Guimaraes, Gordon gets it clear, but only as far as Mitchell, who launches it back towards Lacroix, wins the header, and it's fallen to Johnson. A first touch for the new Palace player just to knock it into the path of Lacroix. Now Wharton trying to twist and weave his way through a bunch of Newcastle defenders, and ultimately it has gone out for a Newcastle goal kick. But a first little bit of intent from Palace, and Adam Wharton, he's picked up a sore one. He's just feeling that right knee, but he looks to be all right. But that was Palace's first foray forward, and not able to get a shot away to test the Newcastle goalkeeper, Nick Pope, who is about to take this goal kick. Long it goes into a clear blue winter sky in Newcastle. Headed forward, Johnson under pressure from Tonali in the centre of the pitch with Lacroix. This is one of three o'clock kickoffs in the Premier League this afternoon. Elsewhere, Everton and Brentford are goalless. Tottenham and Sunderland also goalless. Both of those games are available on the BBC Sounds app as Palace knocked the ball into the area. Johnson fighting for it, gets it to Hughes, shot, and then Mateta just tries to glance on the end of that shot and head it goalwards, but it's gone out for what will be a Crystal Palace throw, and Lerma will get another opportunity to launch this one into the box. Rob Elliott.
Yeah, no, Palace has started brightly. Newcastle obviously had the first opportunity, but since then Palace playing forward quickly. They found a couple of pockets, and then I think it was cut back to Johnson, who couldn't quite connect, and the shot from Hughes deflects out. And this Palace team, I know they struggled the last few games, but they're a proper team, and they've got good ability all over the pitch.
Causing problems again with the long throw, but Anthony Gordon with a chance to launch it clear for Wissa. He sort of fell over the ball. Wharton's won it back into Mateta, edge of the area. Johnson, and the offside flag is up. But those long throws, they just cause absolute chaos in there.
Yeah, it's been a big talk and debate, isn't it, in football? And I think we're going back to the set pieces and the long throws. And yeah, Palace use it really well. I mean, I didn't realise Lerma's throw was so big. And obviously Palace, coming away from home, want to kill the momentum and the atmosphere and get the ball in the box as much as possible. But I'd say both teams are very, very big, very powerful, both very adept to dealing with it. So it'll be interesting to see, because a couple of times when it has broke from Palace's point of view, if the pass is right from Newcastle, they're in. There's a 2v1 with Wissa and Gordon. So yeah, it's a bit of a chess match at the moment rather than some clear football.
It is indeed, because Lerma has another opportunity with the long throw down in front of us. In it goes towards that front post area. Lacroix is battling for it, but Scher gets his head on it. It will be out for the first corner of the match, which will go the way of Crystal Palace. You have been used to being in that situation in the penalty area. Why is the long throw so difficult defensively?
It's the pace on the ball. Your best header, you got Tao, Shah. You can only head it so far, so you know that the ball isn't going to leave your 18-yard box. So then it's shots, it's crosses, it's corners, and it just disrupts flow and it disrupts the atmosphere, and it gives you a chance to reset, especially for an away team coming to St James's. We've probably spent 60-70% of the game in Newcastle's half, but the ball's only been in play for half the time. So it's it's a big part of the game, and it's something that I can't see going away, if I'm honest. I think it's the difference between playing in a team and not.
Yep, it is back to stay. I think the long throw as Brennan Johnson tries to get the better of Hall, but doesn't, and it goes out for a Newcastle goal kick. And now Newcastle will try and get the ball forward, urged on by this noisy crowd here at St James's Park. Hall on this left-hand side gets it to Gordon on the halfway line, just looking for an option ahead of him, doesn't have one. He's had to come back. Hall now offers the overlap, but the ball is just too far ahead of him, out for a Crystal Palace throw. And it will be frustrating for Newcastle to find a rhythm as well when the game is broken up in that way.
That's exactly right, and like you said there, I think it makes you want to go forward quicker than you should, because you think that we've been stuck in our penalty box for the last 2-3 minutes dealing with long throws. So then you force it rather than just keep the ball and try and get some patterns of play, and then Palace are back in again.
Poor crossfield pass though from Lerma, cut out by Murphy. He's gone back to Tonali, and Tonali whips it round the corner. Beautiful ball into the path of Murphy, but it is well read by Gehi. Given away though, but the offside flag up against Murphy, and it will be a Crystal Palace free kick. Still goalless around the Premier League in these 3 o'clock kickoffs. It was Leeds 1, Manchester United 1 in the earlier kickoff. Cunha cancelling out an Aronson opener in that game. Later on this afternoon, 3:15, you can have live commentary on 5 Live Sport of Fulham against Liverpool, and that is followed by Manchester City against Chelsea. But here at St James's Park, still goalless, 10 minutes in to this match between Newcastle and Crystal Palace, as Palace try and get something going on that left-hand side through Pina. Eventually back with Gahey and Hughes knocking it into Wharton. And the ball is like a hot potato at the moment. Rob, it's bouncing around all over the place. Neither team really able to get a complete control on this game.
No, it's really scrappy, isn't it? And I think the cold and the atmosphere, it's with the set pieces, it's really not got going. I think it's probably, probably the evolution for Newcastle, in my opinion, is maybe gain a little bit more control before they go forward. We've got all this pace and energy going forward, and I think sometimes they're guilty of going a bit too quick and turning possession over, and Palace probably settling it down, but there's not been much quality, is there? It's been really disjointed, and no one's really got a hold of the game and got a real foothold.
Yeah, and as you were talking there, the ball given away cheaply by both teams in the space of just a couple of seconds. It is Newcastle who are on the ball now, though, through Gordon. And I mentioned that game at Fulham as a 3:15 kickoff. It was supposed to be 3 o'clock. It has been delayed by 15 minutes due to a medical emergency, so that is why that game has not kicked off yet. Commentary of it on Radio 5 Live when it does, as Murphy, released down that right hand side, manages to hook the ball in. Joe Linton wins the header. Wissa battling, but it is knocked away by Gahey. Lewis Hall picks up the loose ball. Mateta gets in the way of his pass, but he used his arm. He's arguing he didn't, but it will be a free kick to Newcastle right on the edge of the centre circle, as there is a player down just outside Crystal Palace's penalty area. I think it might be Pina that's down there, just struggling with his boot, it looks like. Don't think it's anything too serious. There he is, he's got his boot back on and he's back up.
Yeah, it's cold, isn't it? I don't want to be down for too long.
No, exactly.
I'll be honest with you.
I think I'm wearing more layers than I've worn to any game this season so far.
Yeah, it's absolutely Baltic, and I think that's probably added. It makes, I don't know if it's, obviously, remember when I was playing a while ago now, but yeah, it does make a difference when it's cold, especially with corners and set pieces. It comes down to good mentality, who's willing to sort of go and head the ball and put their body on the line when it's probably not in the best best conditions to play in. And just looking at it today, usually Newcastle are so physically dominant over opponents, and they're usually the ones with the free kicks and long balls, but Palace are a big side today.
Very big side, as Murphy just knocks it into the area. It is won though by Lewis Miley, but cleared only as far as Murphy, but a leap from Mitchell put him off momentarily. Gets onto the second ball though, Murphy inside to Guimaraes, who knocks it down the line to Miley. Miley surrounded by a couple of Palace bodies trying to scrap away, gets some help from Guimaraes, who wins the ball back. Tonali back to Guimaraes, and this Newcastle crowd beginning to roar on their team, but that was really poor from the captain. A cross that was high, long, right over the back, and Crystal Palace take possession back. And just on the cold day that it is here, how do you keep your hands warm as a goalkeeper?
No, you don't. There's not really any other. There's a few tricks of the trade. I've seen some lads wear sort of the medical gloves underneath to stop the water and the wet. But to be honest with you, I think when you're in an arena like this and it's the noise and obviously the adrenaline, it's very rare you get too cold, and because you're always switched on and trying to get in the game. But yeah, it's more my feet was the one. Whenever your feet went, that was always that was when I knew it was time for me to hang the gloves up.
Yes, keeping the feet warm key, as Brennan Johnson just tries to get a cross in, but it's gone out for a goal kick for Newcastle. Yeah, you need the old toe warmers on a day like this inside the shoes. I don't know if you can do that inside the boots, but certainly inside the shoes.
No, definitely. I'm not sure. There's a business if someone wants to get it going, I think there'll be a lot of people today trying to take up on it, but I suppose it shows what the game's been like with me and you talking about this, isn't it?
Exactly. If we're talking about toe warmers, it's probably a fair assumption the game has not delivered too much. This game has not delivered much. Newcastle so far in these opening 14 minutes with the best chance off the game, which fell to Wissa straight at Henderson though. Now a ball over the top though, looking for Murphy, headed clear, and Lerma flicks it over his head, but it's picked up by Tonali. Gahey just gets a foot in, wins the throw-in for Crystal Palace. There has been a goal in one of the 3 o'clock kickoffs this afternoon. Thiago has put Brentford ahead at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. So Everton 0, Brentford 1. That game is one of 3 o'clock kickoffs that you can hear on the BBC Sounds app. Just go on to the app and scroll for the game that you want to listen to. Everton Brentford, our game here between Newcastle and Palace, and Tottenham against Sunderland. The 3 games on offer before Fulham and Liverpool kick off at 3:15. That one is on Radio 5 Live Sport. Lewis Hall with the throw in deep inside his own half on this near side, left hand side, looking for some options. Joe Linton offers, takes it on the thigh, looks up the line, but cut out by Klein, who is making his 7th Premier League appearance this season, his 3rd start in a row. Nathaniel Klein, the 34-year-old, who is having to put in a shift for Crystal Palace with their injury concerns. Doing very well at it as well, as the two teams again scrap about in the midfield, trying to keep possession. Neither managing it too well at the moment, but Gordon has the ball at his feet now, finds Miley, gets the 1-2, now up for Murphy, right hand side of the penalty area, cut out by Mitchell, and it will be a corner for Newcastle. And again we await some sort of drama in this game.
Yeah, the first couple of minutes were exciting, weren't they? We had obviously Wissa's opportunity and a couple of opportunities for Palace with them long throws, and that's probably the first time Newcastle have put 5 or 6 passes together and been able to work it down the right hand side with some good play and get the corner. And I think the other side looking at it is that both teams are set up so well. You know, they're almost cancelling each other out with the press and the defensive structure, and Palace going into a back 5 but then being really aggressive, coming out their holes to go and pick up the midfielders of Newcastle and the runners of Gordon. So yeah, I think it's going to take a moment of either someone really switching off or a moment of real magic and quality to get the game going.
Lewis Hall with the corner kick towards the back post. Henderson gets a little hand to it, and Wissa will pick up the loose ball, find Tonali, who launches it in left-footed towards that back post again. Punches as far as Hall, in it goes again. Sher, brilliant save from Henderson to deny Newcastle the opener. That was point blank, great save.
Yeah, he's been in fine form, hasn't he, for the last couple of years, and fantastic reaction. Come for a couple of corners, gets a couple of punches and real positive goalkeeping, and then reacts to the second ball from Shah. And I think I think this is where the goals are going to come from, aren't they? You know, ball in the box, bobbling around and get a shot off, unless someone can sort of produce a bit of magic, a bit of momentum for Newcastle finally.
Well, Fabian Schär very close to opening the score as Lewis Hall knocks his latest corner in, headed clear though at the back post by Lerma. Wissa again will pick it up. He doesn't have many options at the moment, having to go backwards to Tonali just outside the centre circle, but he launches it long, looking for Miley, who's still up there, but it will be too long, all the way through to Henderson, who instantly tries to launch an attack with Mateta, and it's Mateta up against Tonali, edge of Newcastle's penalty area. The Italian does so well, keeps his calm, keeps his cool, and now brings the ball forward, drops it into Miley, back with Thiaw, but that was very good defending from Tonali, who's taken a little bit of stick, you could see, from the supporters, as Wissa now clear into the area. He's got Gordon alongside him. Gordon puts it into the net, and the linesman has his hand to his ear, but at the moment the flag stays down, and Anthony Gordon is celebrating in the corner with Wissa. Brilliant from the two of them up front. Wissa, very unselfish to play in Anthony Gordon there to open the scoring. Yeah,
it's brilliant from Wissa, the ball to Gordon, who has to sort of take a couple of steps, because I don't think he was expecting him to square it, but firstly the defending from Tonali to stop the counter, and then the ball from Bruno through, like we talked about, just a little bit of magic. Bruno with the outside of his foot splitting the defence, and then Wissa's awareness to be able to slide it to Gordon, and probably just felt last couple of minutes Newcastle momentum building, and Palace will be disappointed because they've started well defensively.
Well, it is a first Premier League goal from open play for Anthony Gordon since the 15th of January last year in a win against Wolves. He has been struggling on the goal front, a couple of penalties this season, obviously been superb in the Champions League, but that will do him the world of good, scoring from open play as he looks towards his bench. There is going to be a wait here, because they will be checking this offside. I said it as soon as the ball hit the net. I wondered if he was onside. First of all, if Wissa was onside, with the ball from Bruno Guimaraes, but this will be an interesting moment.
Yeah, I think Wissa's okay. I don't know if Gordon's just strayed where he didn't think Wissa was going to pass it, but actually Wissa might be off looking at it here, but so it might even be stopped.
Yeah, they're just checking initially with Wissa, who does look to be slightly ahead of play. He was indeed ahead of play, so no goal. We are still goalless here at St James's Park. But that was an indication of how quickly Newcastle can turn defence into attack.
Yeah, it was, and it's good signs for Newcastle. It's a warning for Palace that they've got away with. It's one of them ones where Wissa his feet are in the same line as it might be Guy, but he's leaning his shoulders off. But it shouldn't take that long to get the decision. You know, the linesman should check it straight away, and we should be playing. It's taken 3-4 minutes for an offside. You can see it on the screen there. It literally is within. He doesn't actually look offside, does he?
Yeah,
it's a mad one. You can't tell from this angle. It
looks to be his shoulder that is off, which is why there are a huge number of boos ringing out around St James's Park, because it was his feet. Certainly his feet were onside, but it was the top half of his body that was deemed to be offside. So Crystal Palace from the free kick, launching it forward, looking for Klein, but Hall wins it. That will be a frustrating one for Newcastle. You could certainly hear what the fans thought of it. I wonder what Eddie Howe will think of it, but ultimately the offside rule is the offside rule. Palace now starting something with Mateta in the penalty area, headed out. Now Crystal Palace have a corner, and still the Newcastle fans venting their frustrations.
Yeah, they're frustrated, and I get it. It's frustrating for any fan when your team gets a goal chalked off of leaning a little bit too far, I suppose is the only way I can put it. But just obviously Adam Wharton, a fantastic ball into Meta there, and he's been a big part of this Palace success. He's a seriously talented lad, and just that ball there around the corner gets Palace the corner.
And it is Adam Wharton whose corner goes into that back post area. It is out behind, and it will be a Newcastle goal kick. And Adam Wharton, one of those players who will be hoping that his performances this season potentially can get him on that plane to the World Cup. Do you think that he has done enough to be part of that England squad?
Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, I think he's probably. I'd be thinking, if I was him, can I be starting in the first game, not just on the plane?
Well, Crystal Palace on the move again. Lovely little ball through from Wharton into the path of Pino, but he doesn't get the shot away, and it will be another Crystal Palace corner. The challenge coming in to deny the Spaniard a shot just at the final seconds. Again, though, really good play from Wharton, and he finds those little pockets of space and just those little delicate balls through the lines, as he did there for Pino.
Yeah, he's got great receiving skills. He can play from behind. He can play sort of deeper, and when he's higher up, I think it's his best position, because he does play them lovely little balls into the box for Mateta especially.
That ball into the box cleared by Joe Linton, only though as far as Mitchell, but he's going to play it all the way back to his goalkeeper. Henderson wearing a light blue kit, and you can see the blue leggings that he's got on underneath. I would certainly be having a couple of pairs of them on, I think, today, but Nick Pope, he's gone with the bare skin. As Lerma picks it up, but he's just brushed off the ball. Joe Linton to Hall, and now Gordon, Joe Linton. Newcastle just trying to build down this left hand side, keeps possession well, and now Tonali spreads the play, looking for the run of Murphy. That is a beautiful ball. Will Murphy get there before Gahey? He doesn't. Gahey heads it back calmly to his goalkeeper, but really nice vision from Tonali to try and open the play up there. It
is, and I think that's, I'm going to contradict it. It's a fantastic ball and the right idea, but I just think Newcastle need to find an extra pass and just get a bit of composure and get up the pitch, because when they turn it over to Palace just seem to be able to get into Newcastle's box quite easily, whether it's from set pieces or long throws. So I feel like Newcastle just need to get a little bit of control back in the game to take the sting away, because Palace always look a threat, don't they? They've got goals in the team, and they haven't quite got Johnson and Pino into the game yet, but I think when they do, they can cause problems.
Well, it is still goalless here at St James's Park after 24 minutes. Anthony Gordon did have a goal ruled out for offside, but control is something that Eddie Howe has admitted they've not perhaps done as well as they could have this season, and we've seen games where some games where Newcastle have dominated. I was here in their last home game against Chelsea where they were 2-0 up and then ended up just taking a point from it, and it must be a frustration for him as Lewis Miley looks to try and come forward now. Guimaraes on the halfway line coming forward with Hall for support down the line, looking for Gordon, but again a really poor pass, and again that must be where the frustration comes from. I
think that's what it is, it's that one where it's a forced pass forward, when I think maybe could Lewis Hall, who's an exceptional talent by the way, I'd expect to see him at the World Cup in the summer, just come back round and look for another option. And I think that's probably where Eddie Howe probably sees this squad evolving once he can get the players in, that can they bring in a couple of players that can maybe give them that control, that so they can stay in the opposition half and really dominate, to get the likes of Visser and Baltimore consistently around the box. But considering where he took over 2.5-3 years ago to, or it might be 3 years ago now, mightn't it, to where the club is now, it's I suppose Newcastle fans, forgive me for saying we can't expect too much too early, even if it has been 3 years and at least a trophy won.
I'm going to make you feel old. It's 4 years.
It's 4 years. Oh god.
Lewis Hall released by Anthony Gordon. He's heading up to the Palace penalty area, tries to get the cross in, well balked by Lacroix, and Gordon is down, asking the fourth official why nothing was given, but he managed to get the ball away to Hall, then got the late challenge. Newcastle though with the throw in up near on the edge of Crystal Palace's penalty area, and Hall just throws it to Gordon, back on his feet. Tonali into Theo in the centre circle, looking for options forward. He doesn't have many. There's not a lot of movement for him ahead, Malik Chow. They seem to be quite static, Newcastle.
Yeah, they are. I think Palace are condensing the pitch really well. They're really organised, as you'd expect. And they're making it difficult. I think they know if they leave space in behind for Newcastle that they will exploit it. And I think that's probably been the challenge for Eddie Howe on this Newcastle team now. His team's giving them that respect and sit off them and say, right, try and break us down. And that's probably the challenge, isn't it, for this Newcastle squad going forward, and for Eddie Howe, is in figuring out how they do that. And I think that's where Voltemada's signing come in my head, that if teams are going to sit on the edge of the box and let you have the ball, then that's where the crosses come in and the physical presence from the big man there. But just really impressed with Palace. I know they probably haven't been on the run they want to be, but they've been nothing short of exceptional, haven't they, the last year or so. And you can see there's a team that's really, really aggressive, considering a lot of these players are being touted around this January as well.
They are indeed. A number of players linked with moves away, as is Oliver Glasner himself, but he's really been hit with severe injury problems. 14 fit outfield players for the game at Fulham earlier in the week, 15 today because of the introduction of Brennan Johnson. So a number of young players on the bench, and he's said in the build up to this game it's about finding the right time to put them in, because you don't want to kill their confidence. So trying to protect the young players as well, which you have to admire, but at the same time it puts a lot of stress on the players that are having to play game after game after game in this congested period as well.
Exactly right. And I think the one thing for Palace though is they've always they've had a fantastic reputation and history of bringing through young players from their academy, so no doubt that if they're on the bench it's because they're good enough.
Well cut out by Hall as Wharton tried to find Johnson. The challenge comes in for Lerma, and it's actually going to be a Crystal Palace free kick. Lerma is down, and the referee today, John Brooks, is asking Lewis Hall to come over. Must have caught him a little bit late as Lerma went in and won the ball, but he is asking him to come over for a conversation, the referee, and Lerma is still down, feeling that left ankle. There won't be any further action, I don't think, from the referee. No, he's wandering back over after checking that Lerma is okay.
Yeah, it's that one where Lewis always drives through the middle. He just takes that extra big touch and tries to make up for it, and there's not really much on it. He stands on his toe, so it is a foul, but I think that's it. And I think the ref's making the point because he didn't book was it Lerma on the initial challenge on Gordon a couple of minutes ago. So not loads in it. It's good defending from Lerma, and just probably sums up the game. That just that extra touch when there was a pass on, and it's just still very very cagey, and the quality for two teams at higher level in possession hasn't been great so far.
No, we've definitely seen both of these teams play better than they are doing this afternoon. At the moment, Lerma's back on his feet, and now Palace knock it long, looking for Mateta, cut out by Chiao. and Hall on the ball again, but he's taken a heavy touch. It falls kindly for Tonali though, and now Joe Linton can drive forward, finds Wissa, beautiful little flick with the outside of the right boot into the path of Gordon, and Gordon trying to return the ball to Wissa, but it's cut out, and eventually Lerma can just prod it clear. Johnson with a little bit of a risky one inside, but Palace end up getting it clear, and it has gone out for a Newcastle throw in. And neither team, I mean, it is cold out there, and you wonder if, like you said, that can have an effect on things, because it just feels like nobody's able to get the ball under their spell at all. It's bouncing off players and bouncing around out there on the pitch. Yeah,
it is, and I do wonder, the pitches obviously, Mick the groundsman does an unbelievable job with it, but when it's that cold, even with the undersoil heating, it's not going to be as fluid, and there's been a few bobbles and bounces, and I think that's probably slowing the tempo of the game in terms of the passing.
Handball from Joe Linton as he tried to get the ball off Mateta's toes, so a free kick to Crystal Palace midway between the edge of their penalty area and the halfway line. Elsewhere around the Premier League, there's been a goal at the Tottenham Stadium. Van de Ven has put Tottenham ahead against Sunderland. Mohamed Kudus also going off with an injury for Spurs early on in that first half. So 1-0 to Tottenham against Sunderland. It is 1-0 to Brentford away to Everton. Still goalless here at St James's Park between Newcastle and Crystal Palace. All three of those games available on the BBC Sounds app. You just click on, find the game you want to listen to, and you can hear full commentary from those three games. There is also full commentary of Fulham against Liverpool, which is still goalless. That one kicked off at 3:15. A slight delay to kick off at Craven Cottage due to a medical emergency, but they are underway now. And earlier on this afternoon it finished Leeds 1, Manchester United 1 in the early kick-off. Manchester City against Chelsea is the 5:30 game. Full commentary on Radio 5 Live from the Etihad as the post-Maresca era begins for Chelsea. And as ever, you can see all the goals from across the weekend on BBC Match of the Day tonight. That is with Gabby at 10:30 on BBC One. But here at St James's Park, still goalless, and we are still really awaiting some sort of control and dominance in this game. It has been quite frantic stuff, particularly in the midfield area, but neither team able to exert any sort of dominance or any sort of control on proceedings. No, not at all. I think Palace have got it back into this sort of 5-2-3 defensive shape, and they're doing it really well. Newcastle find it hard to break down. Free kick given away by Brennan Johnson, again taking too many touches. Gordon nicks the ball off him and Brennan Johnson just pulls him down, and that's going to earn him the first yellow card off the game for the record club signing from Crystal Palace. £35 million they paid Tottenham for his services earlier in the week, beating their previous club record signing of Christian Benteke of £27 million. So Brennan Johnson giving away the free kick. It is around 25 yards or so out on this left-hand side. So Hall and Gordon both standing over it as they prepare to knock it in towards the penalty area where all the big boys have come up from the back. In it goes, looking for Chiao, but it is cleared poorly by Pina from the edge of the box. Tonali wins it, but there's a player down. In fact, two players down. Chiao is down, and also I think it's Lerma from Crystal Palace who hasn't moved much since taking that head knock, and Henderson calls on the medical staff straight away. So we will have a little break in play here. But in terms of Brennan Johnson, we've seen a little bit of him in a game that's not been particularly easy for his position to have an influence in, given the number of turnovers that we've seen in possession. But he is an out-and-out winger, or he was an out-and-out winger for Spurs where he had his successful season last season. He's going to be playing more like one of those two number 10s for Spurs, the way that Oliver Glasner sets his team up. How do you think that he can adapt and fit into the way that Crystal Palace play?
Yeah, I think he's a good player, so good players will always find a way to affect it. And I think maybe one of the frustrations at Tottenham is he never really found a place in their system. He was sort of used out wide. He sometimes played off of the front. And yeah, for me, I think the position, the two 10s off of Mateta, I think when they do settle down, they can find the pockets of space for him. Then we know he's a huge goal threat and a really talented footballer. It's been really hard for any sort of the attacking players to really get into the game today, because I suppose on the flip side, both teams defensively are very, very solid, powerful and organised, and it's been difficult for both sides to get any sort of patterns and break each other down. But I think what we hope to see is all these very gifted, talented players, the attacking players on both teams, come into the game more, because it's been very like we said, it has been cagey, and it's been a bit below the standard we'd expect for these two clubs.
Well, Malik Thiaw is up on his feet, wandering over to the touchline here, but there is still concern over Jefferson Lerma, who has moved. He's onto his back now, but still getting some attention. It looks like he must have taken a fairly heavy knock. So I'll use this little break to tell you about another goal around the Premier League. It has come at Craven Cottage, and it has come for Fulham and Harry Wilson. So Fulham leading Liverpool by 1-0. He's been on a great run of form of late, Harry Wilson, so he's put Fulham 1-0 up. Tottenham still lead by 1-0 at Sunderland. Brentford are 1-0 up away to Everton. Still goalless here at St James's Park, and it was 1 apiece between Leeds and Manchester United. Manchester City against Chelsea coming up at 5:30, and after that 6:06 with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, so you can get your calls in. Lerma up on his feet, being helped off the pitch to that touchline behind Henderson's goal. So we will be getting underway again, but hopefully Lerma will be able to return to play. But with the head knock, you have to take your time and take no chances.
No, definitely, and then there's obviously a big collision between the two of them. But I think they're arguing over who got the ball. I think they stopped the play whenever the ref stops whoever's in possession. So Newcastle, I think, won that argument.
They did win the argument, and Tonali knocks it back to Miley, and now Hall moving forward to Gordon on that left-hand side. So Crystal Palace momentarily down to 10. Thiaw as well off the pitch here, but he is ready to return once he gets the thumbs up from referee John Brooks, as Palace win the ball back, edge of the area. Lovely little cut inside, chop from Lacroix to clear the ball and find Pino with it. Now Palace are able to come forward. Wharton, little reverse pass into the path of Hughes. He's got Pino ahead of him and just got a little touch to take it away from Miley. I thought there was too much on the pass, but Pino does well. Looks inside for the run of Gahey, which I don't think Gahey expected, and Newcastle through Miley are now able to get the ball clear. And it isn't going to be a return to the field for Jefferson Lerma, because down in front of us, JD Canvot is preparing to come on, so he will replace Lerma at the back.
Yeah, he's obviously taken quite a bad whack. I think when the collision first happened, Lerma was definitely the one who seemed in more distress. Obviously Thiaw's come straight back on, and I think, is that Tonali, I think, is down. I think he's gone to receive the ball. I think Klein's gone through the back of him. It looks like he's got a knee to his lower back, and they can be quite painful as well. And just a bit disrupted the game now with a few injuries and stop-starts. So probably someone needs to get a hold of the game, get some flow back, and otherwise it's going to peter out to half-time, and I suppose it will come down to which team set up better for the second half.
Yeah, Tonali just moving a little gingerly away, and on a cold day every single little knock feels a little bit worse, and you can actually see just around where the advertising boards are around the pitch here at St James's Park a white dusting of, I don't know if it's snow or frost that still lies on the ground, and it is bitterly cold here this afternoon. But Tonali is back up on his feet, so JD Canvot will just settle into that right hand side of the back three position, but he's lost out to Joe Linton, who's got support from Guimaraes. Now back with Scher. Scher goes long looking for Wissa. Wissa does well to get on the end of it, but it's a heavy touch. It was a fairly heavy pass to him, and now Mateta's able to try and run at Thiaw, but the big defender does really well and wins the throw-in for Newcastle, and he's been an excellent addition, Malik Thiaw.
Yeah, he's been the best signing I think Newcastle have made since Eddie Howe's been here. I honestly think he's one of the best defenders in the league, if not the best, and He's just got absolutely everything. He's brilliant on the ball, he's quick, he's good in the air, he plays every game, and yeah, I think he's gone under the radar a little bit, his signing, but I don't see many better. You know, he talks about the likes of Gabriel, for example. He's definitely in that category, and he's a real coup, because I suppose for 30 million, I believe it was, that's in today's market, staggeringly, that's not a lot of money for a Premier League player, and he's a top defender.
He was certainly forced into settling in quickly given the injury problems that Eddie Howe has had at the back, and he's done exceptionally well in there, as has Lewis Miley in this right back position as he scampers away from Will Hughes up this right hand side. He's got Guimaraes for support. Lovely ball to Wissa, tries to chop it back into the path of Gordon. Beautiful little pass into his path. He was a little bit too tight an angle for him to take the shot on, looked for the cut back, and Palace get it clear for a Newcastle corner.
Yeah, it's brilliant from Miley in the first place, driving down the right and finding Bruno in the middle, and as it has been for so long, whenever Newcastle do find Bruno and he's got time and space, then yeah, things happen. But I suppose they'll be pleased in terms of the fact that every time Bruno's gotten the ball, they've managed to get Wissa in behind. His movement, he looks sharp, he looks lively, but it's good defending from Palace. Just, I think it was Guy stayed with him, saw him off the pitch and blocked it out for a corner.
Into the final 5 minutes of the opening 45, still goalless, but Newcastle with the corner, which Miley throws into the box. Two bodies go down in the area. Malik Chiao is complaining to the referee, saying that it should be a penalty for Newcastle. The referee has brought him and Will Hughes over for a conversation, but certainly the minute the ball headed in towards the area, the two were down, and a little bit of sorting out for John Brooks to do here, and the crowd around the back of Henderson's goal adamant that should have been a penalty.
Do you know what? The referee blew his whistle, so it was in play when the collision happened, and when that, technically, it's you could have an argument for it, but I think he's done the right thing. He just told him to cut it out and then get on with it.
Well, the initial corner cleared to Hall, who's got a brilliant effort, punched clear by Henderson. Joe Linton tried to win it, but Mateta got it clear. What a strike from Lewis Hall, stung the Palms, that must have.
Yeah, great sight coming in on his left foot after the initial corner, and Henderson took no chances, did he? Just chopped it away, and Palace clear, and then Newcastle were coming again.
Finishing the half strongly, Newcastle. Sher with it on this left hand side, back with Lewis Hall. They've had a couple more glimpses in these last 5 minutes or so than Palace, but it's been a pretty even half, and by even that means not much to really get excited about from either side. But Newcastle, the team at the moment, who are trying to make that change before the break. Sher, little back heel to Guimaraes, but he's quickly closed down by Wharton, and now Brennan Johnson plays it through, looking for the run of Pino. The ball was the right idea, but too much on it for the Spaniard. Yeah,
but that's the sort of thing we were talking about earlier with Pino and Johnson in them 2-10 positions behind Mateta. When it does turn over, they're picking the ball up and haven't quite, Johnson overhits that. You could argue he's a little bit out of touch, just getting used to his new teammates. But
long ball over the top, Joe Linton with the effort. Was he onside? No, the flag goes up instantly, and I expected that to come. Composed finish though, all the same.
Fantastic finish, yeah. But yeah, I think he was quite clearly offside, and that's better from Newcastle. I think they've been much better the last 5-10 minutes. The impetus sort of mixed it up when they've gone forward quickly and when they've sort of kept the ball. My only worry for Palace, I suppose, is that a lot of the players are either coming back from injury or carrying knocks, and they haven't got lows to replace them, and losing Lima already it puts them on the back foot. So I do wonder if the attritional side of the game sort of favours Newcastle, because they are the one thing Eddie's teams are, and this Newcastle team is got loads of energy and pace and power. So it'll be interesting to see how Palace can deal with that as the game goes on.
Yeah, well, Canville coming on is a 19-year-old, one of 7 outfield players named on the bench, as Will Hughes takes aim, but his aim is high and well over the top. So yeah, one of 7 of 8 outfield players that Crystal Palace have on their bench that are age 22 or under, a number of teenagers amongst them. A great opportunity for them to experience match day environment and all of those sorts of things, and then if they can get some time on the pitch as well. But from Oliver Glasner's point of view, he would rather have maybe a few more tried and tested on there to be able to bring them on and try and change games. Yeah, definitely. And the obviously with Glasner's situation in terms of not signing a new contract,
his focus is probably solely going to be on getting the best results in the short term. And I think once that's resolved, then maybe the longer term planning of the academy players can come into effect. But just looking at Palace now with the setup, they're being a bit more aggressive in terms of the press, trying to stop Newcastle, and I think it's given Newcastle a bit more impetus and a bit more space the last 5 minutes or so. I'm not sure if that's a message from the sideline, but it definitely seems a bit more open.
Wharton just trying to wriggle past a couple of Brazilians, and he actually manages to keep hold of possession despite Joe Linton and Guimaraes' best efforts. Now Johnson down this right hand side into the right edge of the penalty area, looking for Mateta. He just didn't get the shot right, made contact but not good enough contact. It will though be a Crystal Palace corner, but a real concern for them because Adam Wharton has just gone down off the ball and looks like he's struggling a little bit. He actually picked up a little knock early on in this game. I saw him holding that right knee and he's got gingerly back to his feet, but that would be a huge blow if they were to lose him.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's all right. I think, to be honest with you, and I can speak from experience, Joe Linton's a big guy, and if once you bash into him, you're not just going to shake that off. So I think it's just that collision, but he did brilliantly there, and a fantastic pass down the side for Johnson, who, like we talked about, in that inside position. Inside position, he can break, in between, because Newcastle like to push the fullbacks on. They like to push Hull forward, and Johnson seems to be in that half position, so that if it does turn over, he gets down the side. And Mateta just on the cutback, great opportunity, but it takes a deflection. Could have been heading for the bottom corner.
Corner in. Gahey gets a head on it, but it's high and wide and over. We have 5 minutes of added time at the end of this first half, which we are a minute into now, as Nick Pope prepares to take this goal kick. So still goalless here at Newcastle. This is the only game of the Sunday games in the Premier League that have kicked off so far that has yet to have any sort of goal scored. I was going to say goal with action. We have had a little bit of that. It'd be a bit harsh to say we haven't had any of that, but certainly not too much to get excited about as the ball goes over the top looking for Anthony Gordon, but Henderson will claim that. So Leeds finished 1 apiece with Manchester United in the early kick-off. Brentford lead against Everton. Tottenham are 1-0 up against Sunderland, and Fulham are 1-0 up against Liverpool. As Scher just nods the ball clear. Lacroix, his poor header is poor and goes straight to Tonali. Now Guimaraes. He's got the run of Murphy down that right-hand side, but it was well tracked, so he opts for Lewis Miley, still in that right-back position, although Kieran Trippier and Tino Livramento both on the bench again today for Newcastle, so his days as a right-back may be shortened. He has been an excellent stand-in though, as Hall finds Gordon. Gordon looking to thread it through for Wissa. It's cleared by Lacroix. Shouts of handball, nothing given, as Malik Chow gets on the ball in the centre circle. Looking for the pass to Gordon. Gordon flicks it inside again, looking for Wissa, but it goes all the way through to Henderson. Two very different strikers that Newcastle have the options between, with Wissa and Voltemada. Do you feel like Wissa is a closer replacement to Isak, with him trying to run in behind, playing balls in behind, rather than Voltemada, who seems to like it more to his feet?
Yeah, they are literally your old school bigger than little one, aren't they? But no, I think this has definitely added that threat, so it's creating more space in between for Gordon to get on the ball in pockets. Palace have dealt with it reasonably well in the main, and I think the conundrum for Eddie Howe is, how do you get both of them in there, and where do you sacrifice that player? Do you lose a midfielder? Do you go free at the back to make it sort of a 5-3-2? And I suppose that's probably what we're going to see in the upcoming months, because I do think that both of them on the pitch could be a real handful, but your likes of Gordon and Barnes, Murphy, you've got to sacrifice one of them, or a Joe Linton, for example. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, but I think from a Newcastle point of view, I think the fans are really excited to see that.
Yeah, certainly they would love to try and see as much firepower on the pitch as possible. They have an incredible schedule coming up, Newcastle. Games coming thick and fast as Murphy tries to race clear, but he's stopped in his tracks by Lacroix, who finds Wharton just outside the centre circle, trying to move the ball forward. Does through Hughes. Now Pino, he's got the overlap, but he goes inside to Hughes, who's continued his run, and that's unlucky from Will Hughes. Beautiful run, perfectly picked out, and he tried to just caress it into that far corner, and it's just gone wide of Nick Pope's far post, and the goalkeeper was absolutely left stranded there.
Yeah, brilliant play from Will Hughes and Pino. I was with Will Hughes at Watford, and he's a seriously underrated footballer, you know, both in terms of his defensive capabilities and attacking. I suppose probably just them goals that he got when he was younger at Derby that have lacked in sort of the Premier League, but I think he's only got a couple of Premier League goals, which we always used to like to remind him of. But no, it's brilliant play there, and just shows the threat Palace can pose when they do get a chance to get forward in good areas.
Yeah, real leader for Crystal Palace on and off the pitch, Will Hughes. And he very nearly had a third Premier League goal of his career there. It is two he has.
Yeah, I'll message him later and remind him. But no, a seriously good play. You know, we be honest with you, as a group, we were devastated to lose him both on and off the pitch when we got back promoted to the Premier League, because we just knew how important he was for the team. And it's a fantastic coup from Palace. I think maybe £5 million. So very good acquisition, but probably should have scored.
Yeah, that is as close as Crystal Palace have come to opening their account here at St James's Park. The half-time whistle has gone, so it is 0-0 at the break. And it's not been a game that has been littered with too much in terms of goal-mouth action. Anthony Gordon had the ball in the net, but it was ruled out for offside. Their best chance probably came from Wissa. Gordon down the left-hand side picked out the striker in the opening minutes of the game, but his shot straight at Henderson, and then there was that effort from Will Hughes right before the break. Palace's best attempt of the game, and possibly should have done better, but a great opportunity all the same. Lovely play from Crystal Palace. But Rob Elliott, it's been not an entertaining first half, but it's been an interesting first half, and it will be a hugely interesting half-time team talk from both managers, which may be the key to trying to unlock this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think two top managers got their work cut out in terms of how to figure out breaking each other's teams down. Henderson's probably been the more work goalkeeper, but other than the two offside goals, not to a point where you think he's been really stressed. And probably the story for Palace is half chances or just missed chances there. I wouldn't say that's a half chance from Hughes, much higher than that. So no, looking forward to the second half, because I think both teams know they can improve, and hopefully it improves so we can keep a bit warmer and get some action in.
Well, let's go and get a hot cup of tea to get us going for the second half, which hopefully will give us more in the final third. At the break here at St James's Park, it is Newcastle 0, Crystal Palace 0. Welcome back to St James's Park for the second half, still goalless after a first half that didn't have a huge amount of opportunities in the final third for either side. Newcastle kicking us off for this second half, playing from our left to right. Crystal Palace just knocking the ball out for an early Newcastle throw-in on that far side. No changes at the break for either side, so let me run you very quickly through the two teams. Nick Pope in goal for Newcastle. Hall, Sher, Chiao and Lewis Miley make up the back four. Guimaraes and Tonali with Joe Linton ahead of them. Gordon on the left, Murphy on the right, and Wissa leads the line for the hosts. And it is not forward for Mateta, just doesn't get on the end of the header. Mitchell finding Pino inside to Mateta, puts a hand in the face of Tonali, who goes down and wins a free kick for Newcastle. Crystal Palace lining up Henderson in goal, a back three of Gehi, Lacroix and Canvo, the 19-year-old who replaced Jefferson Lerma, who went down with a head knock in the first half. Mitchell on the left wing back, Klein at right wing back, Hughes and Wharton in the middle with Pino, and a debut for Brennan Johnson in behind their main target man, Jean-Philippe Mateta. Rob Elliott alongside me again for this second half, and it's not been a game that has been outstanding, but it is a game very much that is there to win for both sides. It would have been really interesting to see what happens in this second half in terms of what they've been asked to do at half-time.
Yeah, definitely. I think be interesting from Palace with Johnson and Pino, whether they'll be a bit more braver, stay alongside Mateta for longer, because the back five and the midfield two, Wharton and Hughes, seem to be able to be dealing with quite well the midfield three of Newcastle. So I think the joy Palace have had has been when the ball's turned over and they found Pino and they found Johnson in them spaces. So it looks to me like they have started a bit more aggressively, and I suppose we'll see if that pans out for Palace.
Klein just knocking the ball down that right hand side, but it's deflected out, so it will be a Crystal Palace throw in.
Lerma going off obviously disrupted Palace with the long throws, didn't it? It seemed to be working for him and sort of created a bit of carnage and a bit of chaos for Newcastle, and wherever it was in the half, I've never realised how long his throw was, if I'm being honest. So I think even that has impacted Palace in terms of sort of their threat towards Newcastle, and probably give Newcastle a bit of a chance in the first half, to get a bit more of a foothold, even though it wasn't as strong as they probably have liked.
Yeah, those throw-ins from Lerma were causing all sorts of problems in the first half, and just watching Nathaniel Klein over on that right-hand side, he's walking very gingerly after that clearance, and it is a bitterly cold afternoon here in Newcastle, and that can be the worst thing about the half-time break. You're warm out there in the first half, but just when you get back into the cold and go back out, it can be a little bit of a concern. And Nathaniel Klein, 34 years of age, not saying that that's old by any stretch of the imagination, but I wonder if that's maybe what he's just feeling at the moment.
Yeah, he's a nipper really, isn't he? So no, it does. When you get a whack and it's cold, it does take you a little bit longer to sort of adjust. And yeah, we spoke about it before, but I think there's about half a foot of snow in Newcastle at the moment and around the area, so it feels about -4, -5. So it's a cold day, and I think that really has impacted the game, hasn't it, in terms of the atmosphere and the consistency. But Palace with a free kick, sort of trying to delay and take time.
Yeah, delay too much by Pinot. Was shown the yellow card before he launched that one into the penalty area. Newcastle trying to get it clear. Tonali now does so from the edge of the area, but straight to Mitchell, who launches it back towards the area, cleared by Joe Linton. Now Tonali gets on it, and Murphy will try and scamper clear as he plays the 1-2 with Guimaraes. Looking long for Wissa, but it's well cut out by Hughes, who had that brilliant opportunity for Crystal Palace right before the break that went just agonisingly wide of Nick Pope's far post. That was Palace's best opportunity of a first half that didn't have a huge number for either team, and already the start of this second half, Rob, it's again turnover of possession after turnover of possession.
Yeah, I suppose they're cancelling each other out, I suppose is the best way to put it. The systems and the shapes, they're slightly different, but they seem to be matching each other up more than they are actually hurting each other. I think it's the changes that are going to win this game now. I was a little bit surprised that he might not have made a change at half-time, Eddie Howe, but I suppose he probably knows the fitness of a few of the players where they're at.
Oh, good ball from Johnson. I thought Mateta was going to get on the end of that. Pope did really well to come out and grasp it right in front of the towering Frenchman, but it was a lovely run from Brennan Johnson, and that is the threat that he carries as Guimaraes tries to release Wissa, but cut out by Lacroix. Brilliant though from Johnson. A first real opportunity we've seen of him being able to drive at that Newcastle defence with the ball at feet.
Yeah, I think they are definitely going to be braver, Palace. Pina and Mateta, as we see here, with Mateta picking it up, staying closer to him, and they are causing a few problems.
That one cut out by the ever impressive Malik Thiaw, and Newcastle win back possession, trying to just gain a little bit of control in this match as we see Justin Devaney down in front of us, and I wonder if that is going to be for Nathaniel Klein. We'll find out. Devaney lost his place in the starting lineup today with the arrival of Brennan Johnson as Tonali gets the better of Lacroix, but he recovers well. It will be a Newcastle corner, and that's got the home support off their seats a little bit.
Yeah, I think Klein, he wasn't tracking back there, so I don't know if he is struggling and trying not to get himself more injured. And it is him coming off. So yeah, seems like he might have something more than just the knock, and I know he might have been one of the ones that have been struggling recently, so managed to get through sort of 50 minutes today. Not great for Palace, because now they do have to rely on the younger players coming through, and I suppose that's 2 substitutes they've been forced into. They only get one more if I've got it right.
Yeah, it is indeed. 2 injuries, the first to Jefferson Lerma and now Nathaniel Klein, so it'll be interesting to see where Justin Devaney goes. Will he just fit into that right wing back position? He has been playing in the more of the number 10. Newcastle with the corner, though, clawed away under pressure by Henderson, who's looking towards the referee, but it will be another corner for Newcastle. And I know there is a lot of protection of goalkeepers, but I don't think there was too much impeding him there, Rob.
No, it's just good goalkeeping. You're going to get big bodies around you, you've got to deal with it, and I think what he's done well today, Henderson, is he's made that decision early just to punch or claw things away and take no risks. But I think this was my sort of worry for Palace, and probably what gives Newcastle the edge is that as the game goes on, the changes that are made, I think Newcastle probably get stronger from the bench, and Palace are going to have to find a way to deal with that and make sure that the players stay on the pitch as long as possible.
Well, they have an opportunity to break now through Pino. The corner kick won, and Pino finds Brennan Johnson on the halfway line ahead of the Newcastle back line, who got back really quickly, and it was the impressive Lewis Miley who was able to win the ball off Johnson before he released Mateta. And now Hall comes forward. Murphy on this right hand side cuts back in field looking for an option, which he gets from Miley. And now Chiao. Newcastle just trying to slow the game down a little bit, enjoy some possession. Guimaraes trying to release Gordon, not quite on the same wavelength. Gordon reacted a little bit late, but it will be a Newcastle throw-in, which Guimaraes takes very quickly and gets it back from Scher. Left hand side, midway between the halfway line and the penalty area. Newcastle beginning to just string a few passes together, albeit not hurting Palace in any way. And they've now moved it over to this right hand side. Miley under pressure from Mitchell does well to skip away and find Murphy, who puts Miley under pressure with the return pass, but again the youngster does well. But Gahey wins it back, finds Johnson, poor touch from Johnson. Now Gordon is clear, now he's got an opportunity to get into the penalty area. He had the option of Wissa inside him, which he didn't take. It's a little bit wasteful from Anthony Gordon down that left hand side. It's gone out for the Crystal Palace goal kick. Yeah,
it is, and I think maybe the frustration of the offside goal maybe getting to him, because he hasn't scored in open play for, I think, how long was it?
15th of January last year, so just under a year.
That's a long time for sort of someone with a number 10, with the number 10 on the back of their shirt, and
in the Premier League.
In the Premier League, yeah, of course. And he's such a fantastic talent and player, and he's been excellent for Newcastle, but he just has lost that confidence in front of goal, which you'd expect. So I think for Gordon, probably going back to basics and just getting his shots off early and creating pressure.
Johnson skips away, tries to find Pino in the middle. Great cover tackle from Miley. And again, Johnson just driving at that Newcastle back line. We didn't see too much of that in the first half, but he's found a few positions and opportunities to do it in the first 9 minutes or so of this second half. Pino now trying to release Mitchell, tries to get the cross away under pressure from Murphy, who does really well to win it right on the touchline. Gets a deflection with a clearance which falls kindly to Miley, and now Tonali on this right hand side. Challenge comes in from Gahey, which will be a free kick. I didn't think he won the ball there, Gahey, and the referee agrees and will show the yellow card to the Crystal Palace captain.
Yeah, you know what, I don't think there's any menace in it, but he's quite high on it, and I think that's probably where the free kick is there. It didn't look like he's right in front of us, he didn't look like he won the ball, and it was a high sliding challenge. And I think, your point on Johnson's spot on. He's definitely closer to Mateta, same as Pina, and then they are causing problems for Newcastle because they're staying nice and narrow against Newcastle's back two, against Chow and Shah. They're picking up spaces and pockets, and they haven't quite had that final product yet. But Johnson's got in a couple of times, got the good crosses, and Palace carrying a bit more of a threat from the start of the second half.
Well, no goals here at St James's Park, but there have been 2 in 2 minutes at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. So Everton now down by 3-0. Brentford with their opening goal in the first half, and now Nathan Collins and Igor Thiago with his second of the afternoon have put Brentford 3-0 up away to Everton. So another fantastic result on the cards for Brentford. Tottenham also winning by 1-0 against Sunderland, and at half-time at Craven Cottage it is Fulham 1, Liverpool 0. All of those matches are also available to listen to across BBC Sounds, and Fulham Liverpool is on Radio 5 Live as well, as will Manchester City against Chelsea be at 5:30. That one coming up later this evening. Chelsea managerless after Enzo Maresca left the club earlier this week. So Newcastle trying to create something with Anthony Gordon on the left hand side. He couldn't go forward though, had to go back, and it's like groan from the Newcastle crowd. They don't like to see their team go backwards here. It's very much front foot football they want to see, and Newcastle haven't really been able to do that too often this afternoon. Miley under pressure, gets the ball to Chiao, who looks for Murphy. Been quiet this afternoon. Jacob Murphy preferred to Harvey Barnes today on that right hand side. Palace now winning it back. Nice touch inside from Pino, but doesn't fall to either Mateta or Wharton, who were both lying in wait.
No, they've been excellent, Palace. They've been much more aggressive in their press and the way they're getting after Newcastle, not allowing them any time, not going back, not dropping back into that sort of like low block that they had in the first half. And yeah, they really are frustrating Newcastle. I think Eddie Howe, I would expect him to make a couple of changes. Probably looking at Murphy, possibly Gordon for the two wingers, maybe Voltemade coming on. Just to mention to Lewis Miley, who's been absolutely fantastic, hasn't he? Playing out of position at right back, but every time he's had to defend, he's won his battles, and probably showing the most composure on the ball for Newcastle in the calm moments. And maybe it might adjust it with Livramento or Trippier, and he goes into midfield.
Yeah, there are options for Eddie Howe, certainly more options for him than there are for Oliver Glasner, as Mateta does really well to skip away from a challenge, but his pass is cut out by Scher. And it will be interesting, this position here, as the ball is played in towards Anthony Gordon. Henderson comes out of his box and heads it clear. This will be a really interesting position, because Devaney, who's just lost out to Gordon in that challenge, not a natural wing-back defensive-minded player, up against Anthony Gordon. As Newcastle tried to come down this right-hand side, Murphy trying to get the cross in, blocked by Mitchell, who gets it back from Gehi, will now go long, and that will be picked up comfortably by Scher and back to his goalkeeper. But that position and part of the pitch is going to be really interesting, with Devaney trying to fit into that right wing-back place and deal with the likes of Gordon.
Yeah, and obviously it's the two lads who've come off the bench who are sort of filling them right side centre half and right back roles, so it might just be a bit disjointed, and he's not a natural defender, and Gordon's got in a couple of times now. So yeah, Newcastle probably going to need to be ruthless, and Palace maybe need to make sure that they show the ball to the left to stop that happening. And yeah, still patchy and still loads of turnovers.
Yeah, and a good challenge there from Wharton in the midfield to win the ball back from Palace. Now Pino running at Newcastle's back line. He's got Johnson to the right, who he finds just inside the penalty area, takes the shot on, deflected, but Pino wins it back and trying to get the ball across to a number of players waiting at the back, but it's deflected, and Scher is able to wander away with the ball. He's got support as well from Guimaraes, who now spreads the play over to Miley. And Palace getting good positions but not able to really hurt Newcastle, as Miley again shows real composure to skip away from the challenge. Great feet and move clear and release Malik Chiao down this right hand side, gets it back. Joe Linton inside to Guimaraes, edge of the penalty area. The shout was to shoot. I think he thought about it, took a heavy touch, and then allowed Palace back in. But again, Lewis Miley just showing that real composure beyond his 19 years in the defensive part of the pitch, just to wander away from the challenges. Once again, for the second time this afternoon, Adam Wharton has gone down and looks to be struggling a little. But
yeah, I think he's just got his toes stood on, so I think he's obviously trying to kill the Newcastle momentum as well. I think he'll be fine. Well, I hope he's fine. He's a fantastic player. Yeah, again, just talking about Miley, and great little step to break through the press and drive up the pitch. And yeah, I think for me, I think Miley's evolved so much the last 6 months or so that Newcastle probably need him in the middle of the pitch. You know, I think at times he was keeping Joe Linton out of the team and really added that control, and he was someone that became someone that the team relied on. And I wonder if with Livramento and Trippier on the bench, they might move him in there. But I also think they do need Voltemade on the pitch, Newcastle, because they're not really able to get through Palace at the moment. And I think being able to use him as a base to be able to get some pressure and get closer to Palace's box is, I think, something that Eddie Howe is definitely going to look at. There is a couple of changes by the looks of it. I think that's Barnes.
Yeah, Harvey Barnes is stripped down below us, and there's been a few players for Newcastle that are usually very influential in games. Tonali, Joe Linton, Gordon, Murphy. They've not really been able to show much this afternoon, and as a result, Wissa has been limited in his opportunities as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Just the high quality players just haven't been able to get into the game, and Newcastle on the attack now though.
Hall just knocking it in. Joe Linton gets on the end of it, and it's fallen to Wissa, then falls to Tonali. Both are blocked. I think both by Gehi, or was it Tyrek Mitchell it was, down on the ground, and he managed to block two efforts whilst being lying on the ground, which is impressive. And then Anthony Gordon gives away the free kick with a challenge right on the halfway line and gets the yellow card for his troubles as well.
That's a really good tackle. That's not a yellow card, you know. Apologies to any Palace fans listening. I've not got my Newcastle hat on, I promise. It's a fantastic tackle, and I think the referee there is probably. I think the referee's probably thinking with the guy one that, you know, he's trying to even it up if he felt he got that one wrong. But no, it's a pity that, because it's a good tackle. The game's been played in the right manner, and I think what you're saying there, we're absolutely spot on. There's just no quality in the game, and the pitch is cutting up. And I know it's not. We're talking about the Premier League, and they aren't what they used to. The pitches aren't as bad as they used to be. But I think the pitches is slow. It's frozen, and it's just not. It's just not a game that's really flowing, is it? It's really patchy, and I suppose here come the changes for Newcastle.
Yeah, 3 changes in all for Newcastle. Anthony Gordon, that yellow card, his last involvement. He has gone off to be replaced by Harvey Barnes. Lewis Hall also replaced by Tino Livramento, who is back on the field to play after his injury layoff, and Jacob Ramsey replaces Sandro Tonali. So Lewis Miley staying at right back for the moment, and Livramento on that left back position. Jacob Ramsey going into the midfield, and also Harvey Barnes as well. But it does look a little bit like Joe Linton will have to move slightly deeper, because Ramsey we expect to play higher up, unless that is the message from Eddie Howe, to have 2 players playing slightly higher and just the one number 6 in Bruno Guimaraes.
I think so. I think he's going to have to be brave, because they need to win, Newcastle. You know, they're in no danger the wrong side of the table, but they need to be pushing up and want to be challenging. I think also, you know, from experience, and not at this level obviously, but he's not just thinking about today, he's thinking about probably another 8 games that are coming in the next 2 weeks, and how he's going to be able to manage the squad. And I think a couple of these changes might be sort of predetermined, premeditated, due to the physical load that they're going to have to go through.
It is an extreme physical load for Newcastle. 9 games in January, including this one here today, and 13 games across the next 7 weeks, which averages as a game every 3.7 days roughly. As Wharton comes forward, finds Johnson, he gets the shot away, saved by Pope. Didn't quite get the connection he wanted. It looked like he perhaps slipped a little bit as he took the effort on, and it was easy in the end for Pope. But again, in the second half, Brennan Johnson getting into good positions. Yeah,
he's been excellent, hasn't he? And I think just being a bit more connected to Mateta, him and Pino have really caused problems. And yeah, on the turnover especially, I think Palace are quite comfortable letting Newcastle have the ball, and then just like now, turning it over and playing forward.
Newcastle though win the free kick. Still goalless here at St James's Park. We have had the ball in the net once, Anthony Gordon, in the first half, but it was ruled out for offside in the build-up. Johan Wissa had just gone early, so that denied Anthony Gordon a first Premier League goal from open play for just under a year. Crystal Palace have had one big chance through Hughes, but now Newcastle trying to release Wissa. He's trying to go between the 2 central defenders, goes down under the pressure. The Newcastle fans think it was sinister, the referee does not, and I think I agree with the referee on this time.
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge, and it's good defending, but it's better from Newcastle trying to find Wissa.
Mateta into the penalty area. It falls though for sure enough to get it clear, but only as far as Devaney. Wharton, and now over on this right hand side.
I think the January window is massive for both clubs, isn't it? They both need reinforcements in different areas, because obviously Palace, I know they've got a lot of injuries, but they're on their bare bones, and Newcastle the same. It feels like Newcastle can't really make changes to affect the game. Voltemada will come on, but your gut instinct is that Wissa comes off, and that's not what you want to be doing when you're want to win a game at home. So it does feel a bit like both teams don't want to lose and don't want to sort of overreach, and it's very edgy in the fact that whenever any team gets possession, it's straight back, defending low block, and hope that you keep them out, rather than being aggressive like Palace did in the first 10 minutes. And that's probably where their best success.
Yeah, it's unusual to see Newcastle not being aggressive at home, because that certainly has been what has got them their points at home. Their home record has been very good. Away, not so good, but certainly unbeaten in the last 10 at home in all competitions. This has been a bit of a fortress for them, St James's Park, but today it has been muted. It has not been as intense or aggressive as we often see from them at home, but they do come forward now through Harvey Barnes, left side of the penalty area, trying to find the space from the cross, but Canvo does really well It does go out though for a Newcastle corner. And it's interesting on the January transfer window front. Obviously Crystal Palace have brought in Brennan Johnson, but with Oliver Glasner's future very much up in the air and the expectation that he won't be at the club beyond the summer, does that make it difficult to sign players?
Yeah, it is difficult, because if you're a player coming and making a big commitment to a big club, you're going to want to know the plans for you and the manager and where he sees you. So no one's able to sit there and tell you what your plans are, how they're going to improve you and give you the best opportunity.
Well, that was Bruno Guimaraes has scored from a corner this season, but that was very nearly another one from that far side. It whipped in towards the back post, just bounced off the top of the crossbar, but I don't think Henderson was too worried about it. No,
I think he had it covered. It was obviously good. It hit the top of the bar and somehow didn't go out of play, but I think I'm probably going to go back to what we said in the early part of the game. I can only see a bit of one individual brilliance or a silly mistake to get a goal, because both teams seem really, really switched on defensively, and it's just not really coming alive for teams when they've got the ball in possession.
Guimaraes shows good strength to shrug off Will Hughes, who pulled him back, and now from the edge of the area a shot comes in from Barnes, but it's cleared and it's fallen to Mateta. And Tyrrell Mitchell will try and pick up that loose ball, but good strength from Murphy to win it from him. Looks for the cut back to Barnes again, who's been lively since he's come on. Edge of the penalty area, he's forced backwards to Miley. Miley gets it back. Cross comes in, headed clear, and easily done so by Gahey, but again fall into a black and white shirt, and now Guimaraes goes down under the challenge of Wharton. Just outside the penalty area. Free kick to Newcastle. And I wonder if the referee might go back and have a word with Will Hughes, as he was trying to haul Guimaraes to the ground earlier on in that build-up.
Yeah, I think Hughes has got away with that. I think it's gone on long enough, and I think he's clever enough to get himself out of the way. But no, whether it's this free kick, a bit of magic, or Newcastle definitely, when they have got the ball down and they played, they have found success to get to the final third, to get into the sort of final third at Palace. But they've defended the box really well, Palace, haven't they? And Harvey Barnes definitely has added that extra dimension. He's been excellent his first few touches and really positive. Miley again been excellent with the link-up play with Murphy. It does scream to Voltemade for me from a Newcastle point of view. If they're going to be getting crosses in, then they do need a bit more presence there, and he might even just create a little bit of space for the others, because he is going to occupy one or if not two centre halves.
A real opportunity for Newcastle from this free kick as Kristantas Uchi gets ready to come on for Palace. I don't think that will happen though before Jacob Murphy takes this free kick. He's around 20 yards or so out from Henderson's goal. It is to the right hand side of centre, but I don't think he's going for goal. It looks like he's going to dink it in, which he does, looking for Joe Linton. It's easily cleared though, but only as far as Barnes, just outside the area. In it goes towards the back post where Miley is, and it's fallen to Guimaraes, and the little Brazilian puts Newcastle ahead. Brilliant from Miley to keep it alive at the back post, and it fell perfectly for Guimaraes, who was running in to score his seventh goal of the season, and put Newcastle ahead. It wasn't a mistake, Rob, and it also wasn't brilliant, but it's a goal.
Yeah, I was well off on that, wasn't I? No, the great little bit of play from Barnes, leaves it in the back post. Miley does fantastically, doesn't he, to help it back in, and Bruno can't miss, and I think it's the spark Newcastle needed, and I don't know if the substitutions might change there, what Palace are doing, but no, I think just that bit of pressure, isn't it, the last 2 or 3 minutes. It hasn't been great, but a bit more pressure from Newcastle, getting the ball in the box. Barnes on that far left side from the corner, chucks back from the free kick, comes back inside, lifts it to the back post. Miley round the back, gets the touch ahead of Mitchell, and Bruno following in brilliantly well like a striker.
He's had a fantastic goal scoring season for Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes. That levels his best in a Newcastle shirt with 7. Season a couple of seasons ago where he got 7, he has now levelled that, and we're only in January. So often the captain has stepped up for Newcastle. He has done so today, and Crystal Palace do make that change. Kristantas Uchi replacing Brennan Johnson, who has looked lively in this second half, but an opportunity for Uchi. I'm a little bit surprised perhaps by that, but I suppose he hasn't played a huge amount of football recently, Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a fantastic debut for him, and I think that if you're a Palace fan, there's a lot to look at and know that he's going to be a very good player for them. but I suppose that they need him for the next 20 games or whatever's left of the season, so the manager will know where he's at physically, and I think there's enough there to know that he's going to be an excellent player. The big thing for me here is, where does the game go? I know Newcastle and Eddie Howe, when they score one, they really like to be aggressive and go and get the second, but that does leave space for Palace on the counter, and we saw that against Chelsea when they were 2-0 up, they sat back. So I fully expect Newcastle to come at Palace for the next 5 minutes here and try and get that second goal to kill off the game.
Well, they tried to start something through Harvey Barnes, but Palace defended again really well, and now Chiao launches it high into the dark night sky now here in Newcastle, and Will Hughes picks it up. A first touch for Uche, but it's taken off his toes by Joe Linton. And now Ramsey can try and move forward, but he's surrounded by blue and red shirts. Hughes now comes forward inside the Newcastle half, driving towards the penalty area. He's got Mitchell on the overlap. Mitchell, good ball in, but Chiao heads it clear and picked up by Murphy, but he loses it. And now Gehi is able to try and feed the ball through to Pino, cut out by Joe Linton. Guimaraes, the goal scorer, finds Harvey Barnes and he drives forward. Wissa made a good run, but I think he saw it late and there were bodies ahead of him, and now Palace win it back, and it's now like a basketball game all of a sudden. Yeah, it is, and the goals ignited it a little bit, and Barnes there running at full speed, just couldn't quite get the delivery right, and it's good defending from I think it was Gay, cutting it out, but no, I think Wissa's now probably going to come into the game more, but I think for Newcastle, I think for Eddie Howe, the next two changes are going to be key. Can he add that little bit more impetus to step on and get the second goal? And then for Palace, their options are limited, so they just need to make sure they're a bit more aggressive and probably throw an extra man forward into the attack. Pino dinking it in, but Livramento gets it clear, only as far though as the Spaniard, and now it moves out to this right hand side with Devaney. Left-footed cross looking for Mateta. Scher gets in ahead of him and of Uche, and Newcastle try to clear, but Guimaraes loses it on the edge of the penalty area. Gehi got Will Hughes alongside him, but cuts back outside and feeds it to Mitchell. Mitchell in towards Pino. He left it, but left it for nobody. Joe Linton was there, and Guimaraes now fouled as he tries to break clear, and Newcastle will slow the game down. There's been a couple of other goals around the Premier League to tell you about. Everton have pulled one back against Brentford. Beto with the goal for them, so it is now Everton 1, Brentford 3, and also Liverpool have levelled things up at Craven Cottage. Florian Wirtz with a goal to claw one back for Liverpool, so it's Fulham 1, Liverpool 1. Tottenham 1, Sunderland 0. Elsewhere amongst the afternoon kickoffs, Leeds 1, Manchester United 1 was the early result. Manchester City against Chelsea still to come, and it is Newcastle who lead here thanks to that Bruno Guimaraes goal against Crystal Palace. All the highlights from around the Premier League's weekend on Match of the Day this evening with Gabby Logan at 10:20 on BBC One. Joe Linton trying to feed Barnes, but it's deflected into the path of Canvor, who's now released Mateta. Mateta looking for Pino, the ball just behind him, but he will pick it up on this left hand side, but the offside flag goes up and Newcastle win possession back, and all of a sudden Crystal Palace are trying to turn the tide a little bit here. Yeah, they are. I'm just wondering whether they're going to... I think Mark Guy's stepped in a little bit because they're playing a back five, but I think with the game being the way it is, whether they push Devaney on higher and just go back to a back four, just so they get an extra attacker, because it does feel like they break through the lines at Newcastle reasonably well, but they haven't then been able to get that more clean strike. I think Johnson had that half chance which goalkeeper Nick Pope saved. I know he's dived to his right, but that's comfortable for Popey, and I think Palace just need to commit an extra man forward now, because Newcastle just look like they've got their tails up a little bit and looking for that second goal. Lewis Miley with the lovely ball in, looking for Wissa. Diving challenge there from Lacroix to send it out for a Newcastle corner kick. That was really nice, intricate play in the midfield from Newcastle though, before spreading it wide into the path of Miley. And when they do get that to work and get into that flowing movement, Newcastle, they can be as good as anyone in the Premier League. We just haven't seen it really today. No, we haven't. We've seen slight glimpses, but when there's space to play forward and play forward quickly, they are the best in the league in my opinion. And it's a fantastic ball by Miley, great defending to put the ball out for a corner, because Wissa was there behind Guy to get the ball. But I do wonder if Eddie Howe is thinking about the next sort of 8 games after this in terms of substitutions, because there's just no way that this squad's going to be able to go full tilt
And just as I said that, the big man steps out onto the pitch.
The man you've been wanting to see, Voltemada, preparing to come on. But first, Palace have to defend this current attack. As the ball in from Sher, great header, brilliant save by Henderson, and somehow the ball ends up going harmlessly behind. It will be a Newcastle corner, but Wissa has his head in his hands. What a brilliant save again by Henderson.
Yeah, great save, great ball in by Shah, and I think it's Jacob Ramsey who gets his head to it. No, sorry, it's Harvey Barnes. Great save by Henderson. He parries it out, and it comes back off of a Palace defender and then goes out for a corner. Nearly fell to Wissa there, but Henderson keeps them in it, and Voltemada comes on, and especially with a corner. So should be interesting to see the next the next action or so for Voltemada. Can he make a big impact, I suppose?
Yes, he is on in the place of Wissa, who goes off, so the two do not play on the pitch at the same time this afternoon. Ball comes in, and there is, again, bouncing around the area. It's in the back of the net, and it's Joe Linton and Chia, one of the two of them, I think, that has the ball in the net. It was in a crowd of people pinballing around, and somehow it's gone beyond Henderson. It's found the back of the net, and it looks like Malik Chiao has scored his third Premier League goal of the season to make it Newcastle 2, Crystal Palace 0.
Yeah, it's just a corner into the near post. I think there's someone gets the contact. I don't know if Henderson half saves it or he hits the defender. It bobbles around and Chiao manages to poke it in. Really scrappy goal, probably sums up the game. But I think for me, it looks like that's the game done. I think at 2-0 now, Palace are holding on, but Newcastle getting that second goal. The new Palace not being able to make any changes now. It's probably the game for me. I hope I'm wrong for a Palace point of view, for the Palace fans out there, but just probably sums up the game, doesn't it? That sort of bobbly, horrible goal, and it's 2-0 suddenly without really any sort of patterns of play or momentum.
Yes, that goal definitely does sum up a lot of what we have watched today, but Malik Chia will not care because he has his third goal in a Newcastle shirt, and it was scrappy, it bobbled around, and it could have gone anywhere, but the person with the most composure in amongst it all was the big defender who prodded it in, and Newcastle certainly look like they will have all 3 points here. We are into the 79th minute, so time is running out for Crystal Palace, but they haven't really looked threatening enough throughout the minutes that we have seemed to suggest that they will be able to do enough to take anything from this game. But Newcastle were 2-0 up against Chelsea and only came away with a point, so anything could still happen. Azuchi tries to create something on the edge of the area, flicked in, looking for Pino, wins the header, but there's nobody in the 6-yard box for Palace. Gehi gets a shot away, blocked by Chiao, and Joe Linton throws his body in front of Uche's effort. Palace are doing all they can right now to try and get themselves back into this one, but at the moment Newcastle standing strong and not really allowing Palace any space as Guimaraes cuts out that pass, and now Newcastle are able to go forward through Barnes over the halfway line, holds off the challenge of Devaney. He's got Livramento to his left hand side, who he finds, Livramento on the edge of the penalty area, but his cross cut out and the offside flag has gone up at any case, so it will be a free kick to Crystal Palace. And they've held on to the ball since going 2-0 down, but again, they're just not really getting the bodies into the right areas. No, Mark Gay's he's stepping in, he's going in as like an extra midfielder and pushing on, and Mitchell's pushing higher, so they're committing the bodies forward. They just look like they lack that little bit of creativity around the final third, and I think they're probably going to have to work it up to Mateta like they have now to get the crosses in the box and hope it falls for them. But I think Palace have been absolutely excellent, in their box defensively. I know it sounds silly that they're 2-0 down, it's sort of two sort of scrappy goals, but they just really probably have lacked that little bit of threat on Newcastle's goal, and I think that's sort of told and telled. So when they're 2-0 down, it's going to be tough for them to come back. I wouldn't say never with this team because of the stuff, what they've achieved the last year or so, but yeah, they do look like with sort of the situation they're in with the injuries and the players, that it's going to be a real tough one to come back now with sort of 10 minutes or so left. Yeah, Newcastle of course have this crowd that has woken up a little bit here at St James's Park since the couple of goals, as Joe Linton comes forward again. Devaney does really well though to deny the pass through to Barnes, and now he has an opportunity to try and bring Palace up the pitch again through Wharton and Hughes. And again, we can touch on the bench as well for Crystal Palace. You know, Newcastle have been able to bring on players who are in great form like Voltemada and like Harvey Barnes to try and change their attack, whereas Crystal Palace, they just really struggling in terms of having tried and tested Premier League quality on their bench, young players in their bench.
Yeah, they really are, and Delaney's done really well since he's come on, gets a corner there. But no, it's not been ideal for Palace, and their tired legs. You can see Will Hughes and Wharton, you can tell that they've been struggling. Obviously Klein had to come off. Guy, he looks like he's blowing a bit, and Mateta's obviously got no real support in terms of a second striker. So it is tough for Palace, but they're not give up. They've kept going, and they're a top team. I think probably what's let them down is that in the wide areas they haven't really had any creativity to someone to go and take someone on or pace in the wide areas, because they've obviously had Klein and Mitchell, who are more fullbacks than wingers. And I think the good signs are Pino, Mateta and Johnson in the 10s, fantastic, and will carry a threat. I think they could probably look to add some real aggression in the wide areas. I think that's probably what they're missing from today. Obviously once the other players come back as well, that will obviously help.
Newcastle clearing the corner and then doing well to win the ball back. The ball played long to Murphy. I wonder if he was offside or not. The flag has stayed down, and anyway he's lost out on the edge of the area, but he's won it back, and now looking for Voltemada, but that will straight into the hands of Henderson. The flag does stay down, so I think he was onside as he broke clear there.
Yeah, Pino tracked Murphy back brilliantly, tracked him all the way 80-90 yards, but he's struggling to get back into play now because he'll be tired, and that's obviously Palace. They can't make any more changes, so they're attacking players who've been on the pitch. Obviously it's been a hard graft for them, and they haven't really had loads of success from it. So I'm more worried for Palace now, that I think it feels more like Newcastle will get a third as Livramento goes forward rather than them getting one back.
Well, they have Aston Villa at home on Wednesday night. Palace, as Newcastle come forward again. Voltemada just unable to get the shot away, but keeps possession, edge of the area. Guimaraes to Murphy. Murphy looking long to the back post, nobody there, but it will go all the way through to Barnes on that left hand side, who's got Joe Linton in support a little bit deeper. Joe Linton cuts it back onto his left foot, plays it up to Barnes, who skips away from the challenge of Devaney, plays it into Voltemada, but that's well cut out by Palace. They can't move forward though, because Newcastle are there in numbers to win the ball back. So it's Aston Villa at home for Crystal Palace on Wednesday night, and then Macclesfield in the FA Cup, and then after that they have the luxury of just a game at the weekend. No midweek football, and Oliver Glasner has said it will be like a second pre-season for them, which shows just how many midweek games that they've had with their Conference League participation as well. So it's been a challenging time for Crystal Palace, but perhaps an opportunity to get some rest and recuperation to come over the month of January. Yeah, definitely, and we had it ourselves when I was at Newcastle and we got into Europe. We had a very good season. The next season was a real struggle because the players, we just weren't used to as a squad playing Sunday, Thursday and every single week, and we had a lot of injuries. So I think this January window and that break there, the Macclesfield game, I'm sure there'll be an opportunity, you'd think, to, with no disrespect to Macclesfield, to rest some players and have that sort of break and bring some players in or get players back fit. So yeah, they're still in a fantastic position as a club, and Newcastle on the attack again. Barnes down the left hand side is cross into Joe Linton cut out, but Livramento picks it up, left it edge of the penalty area, just driving into the midfield to Scher, and now it goes back onto that left hand side. Lovely little ball in behind to Barnes, dinks it looking for Voltemada over his head. Murphy is there though, but he can't really get it under control. It will be a Crystal Palace goal kick. But Harvey Barnes has been really lively since he's come on, and I know there are a number of Newcastle supporters that are asking the questions of why he perhaps hasn't got the opportunity to start ahead of Anthony Gordon, who has struggled a little bit this season. Yeah, it's probably a valid point. I think the big thing with Gordon is out of possession. He's such a threat. He puts a lot of work in, and he's got that real tenacity in the way he runs and the way he plays, and he has got a lot of assists and supported the team. But Harvey Barnes, I feel like, is really coming into his own. I think he's starting to get comfortable with playing at St James's and sort of playing for a big club, and he's been exceptional every time. I think he comes on, he does really well. There's times where he's started where I think probably he needs to improve and make sure that he's having that same impact for 70-80 minutes, but I think with the amount of changes Newcastle constantly have to make and the injuries, I don't think anyone's really had the chance to get into the real flow and be able to get into a real flow and be able to sort of really nail down their place over 6-7 games, because Eddie Howe's having to manage the physical load, and
they're sort of having to change shape and change shape and positions all the time. So I suppose from a Newcastle point of view, they hope that once they get through this period, they can bring a couple of players in, get the players back from injury, and people can start settling into their roles.
Well, that was a concussion substitution earlier in the first half with Jefferson Lerma going off. We weren't sure if they had called it a concussion substitution, but they must have done, because both teams have an opportunity for a fourth change. And Newcastle bringing on Joe Willock, who will replace Jacob Murphy, who's just gone down to get a little bit of treatment there, so no risk taken. But Crystal Palace making a triple change, and a real opportunity for some of their youngsters. So Caden Rodney has come on in midfield. He's replaced Adam Wharton. He's made one Premier League appearance this season, the 21-year-old. Romain Essa has also come on. He's replaced Pino. And Joe Drakes-Thomas, who has certainly raised a few eyebrows with his performance against Cups in the Conference League, he has come on to replace Mateta up front, the 16-year-old. So high hopes for Joe Drakes-Thomas, and an opportunity for him to taste some Premier League action for the second time this season. But it is Voltemada who's driving forward, and it is Drakes-Thomas who takes one for the team early on by clipping the heels of Voltemada and stopping that break from Newcastle. And Newcastle will get the free kick, and Will Hughes is struggling in that midfield, and he will have to play the final 2 minutes, because there's definitely no more changes available to Crystal Palace, who are down by 2-0 here at St James's Park, and now face a free kick.
Yeah, I feel for Palace, that they've been put in this situation, and I think the manager's obviously getting the young lads on for some experience. He probably knows the game's gone and it's great for them, but you've got Will Hughes has obviously been struggling with a hamstring injury. He's feeling his hamstring now, so you hope that isn't another injury. But knowing Hughes the way I do, and obviously like how committed he is to Palace, that he'll carry on regardless. But yeah, it's tough when things are going against you. They really go against you, and Palace have been better than the scoreline sort of reflects. But understandably so with the injuries they had and the options he's got.
Well, it was a hamstring that forced Will Hughes off in their last game. He was past fit for this one, so certainly hopeful that that's nothing that will keep him out for any length of time. He's just dived into a challenge and won a free kick, won a throw-in for Crystal Palace, so nothing really stops him, does it?
No, it doesn't.
He's a warrior.
He's been brilliant today for Palace. He really has. It's been tough in there. Him and Wharton having to deal with Newcastle's midfield three. We know how good and powerful they are, and they've overall done a good job. Hughes is experienced enough to be able to manage his body through the game, and he'll know what he can and can't do. But Palace still pushing forward. Like this is a team that's playing for their manager. They're playing for the club. There's no shame for the situation, the scoreline. It's more down to circumstance from a Palace point of view. They're just, I suppose, for them, can they get another goal back and put some pressure on?
Well, opportunity to cross from that right-hand side. It has fallen to Uche, but he's out-muscled, and it will go behind for a Newcastle goal kick. There has been another goal in the Premier League. Sunderland have levelled things up against Tottenham. Brian Brobby on the score sheet for them. So 3 games into the final minutes. Everton 1, Brentford 3, Tottenham 1, Sunderland 1, and it is Newcastle 2, Crystal Palace 0 here at St James's Park as we go into 5 minutes of added time. Fulham against Liverpool kicked off 15 minutes late due to a medical emergency, so they are just entering the 80th minute at Craven Cottage, and it's Fulham 1, Liverpool 1. Coming up later this evening on 5 Live Sport, you can hear full commentary of Manchester City against Chelsea. Voltemada just losing out in the air to Canville, but it's gone out for a Newcastle throw-in just on the halfway line. And Newcastle, I'm sure, will start to take their time over these set pieces, just see this game out, and it's been a good start to 2026 for them. A 2-0 victory, couple of goals, albeit one in particular very, very scrappy, but they will certainly take anything in this congested schedule. But that's Harvey Barnes released by a brilliant ball over the top, and Lacroix's trying to get back, but Harvey Barnes gets the shot away, saved, and then on the follow-up, Joe Willock misses an absolute sitter. It was an open goal for Willock. Henderson was out of the game, and he's just put it past the post. That should have been Newcastle 3, Crystal Palace 0, but Palace somehow survive.
I don't know how he's missed that. I don't know what's happened. The first ball through, Chow with a bit of lovely skill there, and Miley again connecting and putting Barnes through. His fantastic first touch with the outside of his foot as he's running on the bounce, and yeah, tries to put it in the bottom corner. It's an excellent save from Henderson. It falls to the middle of the goal. 8 yards out, 9 yards out? Willock coming onto it. He's just got to put it in the middle of the goal, and I think he tries to side foot it back across Henderson when there's not really any need, and puts it a foot wide. And yeah, it really should be 3-0 and then definitely game over, although it does look like that way at the moment with just 3 or 4 minutes left.
A disappointing moment for Joe Willock, who's been starved of game time really this season. He's not really found the form that he had when he arrived in Newcastle, and that was certainly a glorious opportunity for him to taste Premier League goal scoring action once again, but somehow puts it wide of the post. Drake's Thomas doing really well to keep possession under pressure, trying to feed Uche, but Newcastle able to get a foot in and win the ball back. And Nick Pope will clutch that in his hands and take his time over this, well, as long as he's allowed to these days with this new rule. Are you a fan of this new rule?
No, I'm not. I like the concept, but I think the actual practice isn't great because it just doesn't give teams a chance to get set. So I think it could be at the referee's discretion, start saying 5 once he feels like, if the referee feels like the goalie's taking too long, then start the count from 5. At the moment, it's like the rule when we started adding extra time for everything that happened, and it was about 15 minutes of extra time every half. And I think it's just the concept's great. I think the reality needs to be improved. It's not really been an issue today, but I'm just looking from a Palace point of view, like Drake Thomas there, obviously some lovely bit of footwork, and such a young kid to come on in this environment and that composure is another positive for them. And I was looking at Uche when he come on, and yeah, he looks a good profile. And he's had a couple of good touches when Mateta was on and Pina was on. He had a good few touches, and he looks lively. And I know he's not played loads of footy, but he looks like a big, powerful lad, and he looks like he's got good feet around the goal. So I think for Palace, once they get players fit, to get Muniz back and the top sort of players that they've got, they're going to be fine. It's just staying calm and getting through this period. It's a tough place to come, Newcastle, now, you know that, especially like you said before, 10 games or maybe 11 unbeaten at home. It's always going to be difficult, and in the situation Palace are in, I think they've been excellent, other than the 2 sort of scrappy goals they are, aren't they? They could have been 3-4-0 down, but that's when they're chasing the game, so there's no shame in that.
Yeah, Uche on loan from Getafe, but Drake's Thomas certainly somebody that Palace will hope wears their colours for a good number of years. He's their 4th youngest player at 16 years old, come through the academy, and they certainly have very high hopes of him. There's been another couple of goals actually at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. We've struggled for goals, but it's Everton 2, Brentford 4 there now, as there's a little mix-up between Chiao and Pope, but Newcastle do get it clear and win a free kick just outside their own penalty area as Willock gets gingerly back to his feet. So Barry scored for Everton, but before then Igor Thiago finished his hat-trick, and that is the end of the action here at St James's Park, and it is victory for Newcastle. It wasn't a game that will live long in the memory of many supporters inside the stadium. It was scrappy, it was not particularly free-flowing, and the intensity that we often see here at St James's Park wasn't quite there, reflected in what was one of the quieter atmospheres I've certainly experienced here. But for Newcastle, it was all about getting 3 points, getting that victory, and starting off this month that Eddie Howe has said will be crucial to them achieving what they want to achieve this season. Starting it well, and they have done exactly that, with goals from Bruno Guimaraes and a really scrappy finish from Malik Thiaw. Again, they won't care about how the goals look. It's all about ensuring that they get them, and add to that a clean sheet. And you'd have to say, all in all, a good afternoon for Newcastle.
Yeah, from a Newcastle point of view, it's a good habit to have by not playing well and getting wins. And overall, on reflection, it's probably quite comfortable for them, although they didn't really play with the intensity and the sort of fluidness that we're used to. But yeah, like you said there, 2 good wins in the last 2 games. 6 points gets the momentum going into this tough sort of group of fixtures. And like you said, Newcastle looking like they're very close to getting their better players back on the pitch and having more options. So Hopefully a couple of January editions ready to go into the Champions League and the cup competitions for them.